By the early 20th century, film had become the medium of record. If an event wasn't filmed, it was as if it never happened. But in China, it was difficult to first document and then preserve the film record of a country in turmoil. There was the collapse of the Qing dynasty and the rise and fall of a republic, the emergence of so-called warlord generals, the founding of a second republic, civil war, an invasion that would rage for 14 years, destroying much of China and taking millions of lives, a renewed civil war and revolution, all in the span of 50 years. Now, after decades of research, it is finally possible to see life in China as it actually occurred. To see China frame by frame. My name is Bill Einreinhofer, and I doubt you've ever heard of me, despite a 40-plus year career in television. I started making documentaries back when I was in college, which obviously was a long time ago. I've spent most of my career behind the camera, until now. When I first arrived in China, more than 3 decades ago, I had no idea I would spend much of my professional career making stories in and about China. I also didn't know I would become a footage detective, spending countless hours locating rare historic footage. Yet, that's what happened. Today, America and China have deep, fundamental differences. In fact, it's no exaggeration to say relations are terrible and threaten to get even worse. How did we reach this point? The answer to that question can, in part, be found in historic film footage, much of which was lost, stolen, or at the very least, misplaced for decades. Footage I have been tracking down for more than 30 years. These are some of the earliest film images to be shot in China. Who are these people? What are they doing? Why are they doing it? Where are they going? What kind of inner life do they live? We don't know. We will never know. Foreigners shot most of the footage from this era. They likely didn't speak or write Chinese and had a limited understanding of the local culture. Yet it is still possible to recognize authentic elements of Chinese life.
Even if those films are sometimes mischaracterize the events, you can find some valuable things in that.
It was the rare foreign film that captured Chinese life as it was, life that ebbed and flowed, just as it did in other societies. Events that mirrored the emotional lives of the Chinese people themselves, as opposed to what Westerners saw as strange and exotic. Yet, foreigners didn't have a complete monopoly when it came to filmmaking. This is a group of United States Marine Corps pilots flying over the port city of Tianjin in North China during the 1920s. The subject matter alone makes this footage notable, but so does the cameraman. We don't know who he is, but he must have been good. Would the Marines have chosen someone who wasn't proficient to document their exploits? In China, the period from the mid-19th century until the mid-20th century is known as the Century of Humiliation. The dangers posed by invasion, occupation, and rebellion were seen as perpetual threats by China's leaders.
Over its history, China has been invaded from many directions by many people, and this has made it suspicious of foreigners. Also, China is a country of diverse provinces and ethnic minorities, some of which had rebelled in earlier times. The Chinese Communist Party is obsessed with the image of a unified China, and it represses any thoughts of separatism.
During the first half of the 20th century, thousands of foreign children, the sons and daughters of business executives, doctors, lawyers, Christian missionaries, and others lived in China. China, in fact, was their home.
We learned to speak Chinese, and we were completely bilingual as children. If we played with our brothers and sisters, we also had Chinese playmates, and there were more Chinese around us than there were Americans. And of course, we ate Chinese food, and it was just all a part of our life.